fighting on a front line for the ones who are back home or in another country, supporting from there. So could you give us more detail on that?
Of course. Well, first and foremost, to Ukraine, life is the utmost important thing to take care of, right? So, unlike Russia, so life comes first. But for the soldiers, they need to be trained. So Ukraine takes care of their soldiers, making sure that they get great training. And we have other countries that are pitching in to train the soldiers. And another thing that I find that's the most different from the Russian world, Ruski Mir, is that the Russian soldiers don't leave any bodies behind. They go pick up um, obviously the wounded, but they pick up and they bring back the bodies and they give them a heroic, proper burials back in Ukraine. No matter what, they have to go back for their brothers, and no matter how much danger they're in. I find this the biggest difference because, as we know, the Russians they don't pick up, they don't go back for their comrades, should I say. Um, and it's just bodies, bodies on bodies, where it became extremely difficult to even do anything. Um, but that would be the biggest difference is Ukrainians take care of each other no matter what, no matter how much danger they're in. Proper training, food, of course. That's a huge difference as well. Uh, Ukrainian soldiers are fed way better than the Russians, and of course, the morale. Morale is very, very important. But morale for Ukraine. I mean, if Ukraine stops fighting, we lose everything, right? um, where Russia doesn't even know what they're fighting for. They're fighting for just to kill, I guess. Um, yeah, I think that would be the biggest points from me. And
Well,
do you have any? Or go ahead.
just to add in to what I've seen, I keep track of the a lot of the medical stuff, and in the what I see when Ukraine takes care of its wounded warriors, they're they're setting up like the superhuman center and several other large rehab hospitals that we've talked about, just to care for the soldiers that are coming back wounded, that have amputations or paralyzed or other things. Um, whereas in Russia, when the soldier gets sent home, oftentimes they're just sent. They have no rehab. They're if in fact if they can, they'll stick a prosthetic on them and force them to go back to the front. Now, see, there's a lot of Ukrainians that will also, if they can, they will go back to the front, but they choose to do that. Whereas in Russia, they force them to do that. It's a big difference, and that causes that difference in morale that you just mentioned, Slavi. That in Russia, they don't know what they're fighting for. They don't want to fight many times, and but then the Ukrainians know what they're fighting for, and so even after they've got a leg or an arm amputated, if they can still function in some way, they'll go back and help wherever they can.
Yeah, fantastic point, Nafo Dave. Also, there's been numerous times that I don't know if it's polls, but that Ukraine was actually it's known to be the most giving country, and I think that tells a lot from what kind of people Ukrainians are. That's what we've been brought up with, and yeah, when someone is in need, no matter what, we help. And also how Ukrainians treat their prisoners of war. The Russians that they've caught is much more humane. I mean, it is very humane compared to the Russians. And yeah, even we take care of human lives as well, even though they are the enemy. Because we don't want to be on the same level as Russians, and we're not. So we're gonna treat our enemies humanely. Um, Dryfly, I believe you were next.
Hi, I just wanted to comment quickly on people not getting frustrated what they hear on spaces in a lot of places with respect to Ukraine being asked to negotiate or any of that. If we're not hearing it from elected officials, I would not worry about it. Spaces, Twitter in itself has a very, very small reach worldwide. It's shocking, really, how few people pay attention to Twitter. Spaces, as a part of Twitter, has an even smaller fraction. It has a tiny reach. This platform does better because we all make efforts to then reach out into the real world. We call our congressmen, we do things outside of this. But generally speaking, if you were to just poll people you know in your regular life, how many of them even know spaces exist, you would probably be shocked to find how few do. So I don't worry when I hear this kind of stuff. I look at it as a shadow or a an indicator of the efforts the Russians are putting in to try to spin the messaging, media messaging. And I just don't see it in real life anywhere near what we see on some of these more hyper uh, spaces on Twitter. It's just not a real thing yet. Now, if you want to get worried, listen to the Sunday talk shows, listen to the evening news across the world, you know, whether it's BBC or CNN or the networks in the US, some of the other European national networks. And then when you start hearing more conversation there, and my understanding is that you are hearing it in some places like Germany, you're hearing it occasionally on the BBC, you know, that should give people a little more pause because those are better reflections of what's actually happening in capitals. But I wouldn't let it bother you. I think it's good that you stand up to them. I think it's good that we have counter messaging, but absolutely don't get disillusioned or have anything even close to despair over what we hear. What they're telling you is they're telling you the messaging they're trying to push. The Russians are trying to push. A lot of these are bot driven. If you are actually, I mean, on your own spaces when you have your guys come in and they talk about how much inauthentic um, and artificial conversation there is on Twitter to begin with. It's shocking. It's just a huge number in sectors like this, whether it's Ukraine or NATO or anything where the Russians have a heavy hand in doing uh, pushing propaganda. The amount of bot traffic in artificial content is really, really shockingly high. So all I'm going to do is caution people. Yeah, it's good to have your ear to the ground, hear what the messages that they're putting out, have counter arguments, but you probably don't have to worry too much because it's not really reaching anybody. Where you worry about it is when it actually reaches real media. And then you have to really strike and strike hard because that stuff reaches millions and millions of people. And I will listen. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Dryfly. I have to agree with that. There's also going to be a huge push with AI coming from Russia with Russian disinformation, and the governments are aware of this. By the way, I wanted to kind of get into this a little bit later, but we're on this topic right now. With AI, I mean, one person can make tens and thousands of accounts, and they're using normal people. It could be a student, it could be a wife, housewife, whoever. So it will look extremely real. But that being said, I don't think we should ignore it, even if it looks like a person, like a real person, pushing some kind of narrative. I think we should definitely push back on it, not ignore it. Um, I mean, it's important that people actually see it, that there is pushback when they're saying, oh well, they're just Nazis, so it's easier to kill them, so let's just kill them. That kind of rhetoric, it does need to be pushed back, and there needs to be some sort of kind of online imprint made on that. I think that's very important. And also, if it seems like a somebody that's MAGA, and they're maybe open to listening, those are and voter age, those are kind of people that are, especially, I think, should be of interest to, that we can talk to normally. But I know it's a rare sighting when they're open to listen and not be aggressive in any way. But let's go to Arye, and then, or
Can I
Jack, I
follow?
do have.
Yeah,
do-
I'd like to
Yeah.
follow up on it. There are two schools of thought on that. And one of them, and I worked with a guy who I helped a guy run a forum back before the internet was, before Twitter was such a big deal. I mean, Twitter was there. Most of the people I knew then who were on Twitter have all left it. I mean, they left it out of disgust. This is like, 2015 or so. But I was helping a guy moderate a forum. And one of the things we learned then was just how much artificial content there was already then. Okay. And one of the problems with interacting with them is that it allows them to actually propagate the message some ways better. So you really have to do careful triage, almost like an emergency room. You have to look at it and say, is there any chance you can interact with this person and have a meaningful message, whether you change them or not? Maybe you do. Um, is there any hope that are they really so far gone that there's really no hope? Don't. In the other cases, if they're truly artificial, any interaction with the message is probably destructive to your efforts and helps them because they're scraping your accounts. They're literally going through and scraping all your follows, all your followers, building it up, and then going back after them, and then using either that account or different accounts to go in and poke and prod those. Sometimes the best thing you could do is mute and block, and so that they just cannot see your content anymore. But you have to decide, in what forum it is. If you're in a forum that you really value and they're attacking you there, the question is, do you defend the message for all your other viewers, or do you just get them off of your stream? And you have to decide at that time, can you do that? And it's a tough call. But right now, there's something like probably 70-80% of the content on the web on Twitter right now is probably artificial. In other words, the chances that you're actually dealing with a real person whose mind you can change is pretty slim, because first of all, it's only 1 in 7, or it's a 30% chance that it's a real person. And then what's the chance that you can flip that person? So I'm not saying to not have any interaction. You just need to really pick your fights. Me, mostly now, what I do is I just delete. I just block them. I just mute and block and mute and block and mute and block, unless I'm on a forum where I think other people are going to see my reply, and they're the ones I'm speaking to, not the troll. And that's where it's really important. So you really have to look at it hard and decide, you're not going to change a bot who is attacking you, but other people who see it may be influenced. So it's just such a tough call. The point of it, that my whole thing though, wasn't so much how to manage it as much as it is to just not freak out about what we're hearing, because there is so much inauthentic and fake noise right now. And it is getting better with AI, and it's going to be nothing but better. And at a certain point, people aren't even, I mean, it's going to be like talking to your TV, and we're going to know that. And it's going to stop having influence, because at some point it's just advertising. People who see a lot of advertising, some people get affected by it, but after a while, people get really, really, they get deaf to it. And increasingly, social media is falling into that camp, where people are just not being as affected by it because they know it's so fake. And so all I'm saying is don't let it get you down, because it's not reflective necessarily of of what people actually believe and what people are actually going to do in the ballot box or in their own personal lives. And that was my main point. And I'll listen. Thank you.
Great points. Thank you so much, Dryfly.
Thanks. Yeah. Just a brief note, Area. I'm trying to bring you up as a speaker, but it won't let me. So you may want to recycle, turn off Twitter, flush the cache, come back. Can you bring him? Can you? Does it work for you?
I'm not even seeing Arye, um, but we'll sort it out. Um, in the meantime, I did put up an article in the Purple Pill, and it's about Russian disinformation campaign, which is targeting illegal immigration problem, and this is to undercut Ukraine aid. And this is not, they're not doing it just to America, but they're doing it to Europe as well. Um, so yeah, if you guys want to take a look at it, that's kind of been the big talk. And the fact that they're using AI, like Dryfly said, is very concerning as well. And and that will be very, very hard to kind of eradicate it fully. I think that's where he was kind of leading up to. And as we know as well, Russia is putting out 166 million disinformation posts weekly to undercut uh, Ukraine and to spread disinformation about it. All right, let's go to James.
Yeah, thanks. I I hear you, Dryfly, about the don't get too worried about these things. But I also think that what we hear on Twitter is what other places are going to hear as well, because I think there is a concerted effort by Russia to get out the message across all the different channels possible. So I'm of the mind that we should look at these things like today, and I'll say that we should look at things, and I'll describe that. But look at them and say, this is probably what's going on everywhere, and maybe test that. And then what is our reaction to that going to be? It isn't so much about us getting upset or really, worried about it. It really is about what is the right response to it. And so today we had House of Grants come up as a speaker, a person who moved from Ireland to Scottish, but lived in Ireland, I think, and then moved to the Netherlands, and was alarmed that she was in the middle of the most dangerous part of Europe, apparently, and we were poking the bear needlessly, and it could only lead to doom. And we've heard all this stuff before, and it also reminded me of a theme I heard last week, and that was the theme about this was the day we were kind of celebrating NATO Sweden Day, and so lots of Finns and Swedes and the like up, and somebody was talking. Um, Cure or Eric was talking, and he was talking very adamantly about how, in fact, Sweden and Finland were one people. They were one people, and he was very insistent. And he was sounding exactly like Vladimir Putin about Ukraine and Russia. And so, it was a kind of a second remove from reality, because nobody was questioning this before he started talking, but he was introducing that idea of, let's collapse these two countries into one, and it's okay, was kind of what he was pushing. And so, in that regard, I guess that we learned a lot from listening. Don't get alarmed. Okay, I'm good with that, Dry Fly, but I am very concerned that the lack of alarm may also lead to lack of action. And what is so the question then to me is, how do you react to things like this? And we certainly did react, and straighten out those things. And one of the things that was revealed in the process of having sort of a discussion and then kind of a review of what happened, and thank you all of the people who came up to speak to us and tell us some or give us some feedback, because one of the pieces of feedback was about that we hadn't introduced the rules, but more importantly, that we had kind of skipped over the fact that the person kept starting with, "Oh, I'm on the same side of you about stopping this war." And it's like, wait, really, we're not on the same side. We all want the war to end. It's just some of them want us to stop the war as it is, where Ukraine is losing, as opposed to stopping the war when Ukraine has won. And what a big difference, right? So it just struck me that, yeah, don't worry, but do act. Do think about how to react intelligently. And boy, I think I also I really took in the advice about today, I should say, took in the advice that somebody provided about us giving the house rules, whether on paper or just us telling people, especially new speakers, hey, we raise our hands, we wait, blah, 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 all that stuff. So, anyways, that was my contribution to this. Very interesting discussion.
Thank you. On the article you posted, was that the ABC News one, Slavi?
It is, yeah.
Yeah, I find that when I read through it, I find it very interesting, um, because immigration has become such a hot topic here recently and it's linked tightly to support for Ukraine, and with there was this really rare time where Republicans and Democrats had worked out a deal for passing legislation about the border, and then suddenly Trump shoots it down. Um, and you kind of have to wonder, where was Trump getting his orders from? Was it because it seems like he and Vlad are pretty good buddies. I'm wondering if this is actually, and Trump has shown himself to be very um, influenced by anything anything the Russians put out and tell him. He's like, yes. So I'm just wondering if Putin was, we tend to blame Trump for that, but it could have been Trump just mimicking Russian information that he had received about the border. For every child.
Well, really, probably the most surprised person in the country uh, for that election was Trump, because for him it was just a way to boost his brand and get nationwide attention to him as a person. He never, in my opinion, and some others have voiced the same opinion, but nevertheless, in my opinion, he never expected to win. He simply wanted uh, the publicity of running. Um, but when he did win, he didn't know how to govern, and again, my humble opinion, uh, he he took his tutoring from Moscow.
Well, it just seems to be a coincidence, well, not a coincidence, but I guess a yeah, one of those coincidences in air quotes, that Moscow is really using our border as a lever to divide Americans, and we had a very strong support in the Senate, not quite so strong in the House, but we had enough. If the bill were to be brought to the floor by Moscow Mike, then it would probably pass. But I think Russia has those two very much in their control, and so they can move the levers of power, so to speak, even from afar, just by their ability to control a couple of people that are in high influence, that are high influence people in our society. Yes, James?
Yep, you said it. Just a few people is all you need, right? The leader of the House is one of those, and the president ideally is the other, and that would do it. Or potentially the leader of the Senate. And what we've seen historically is that too many of those players collectively have been favorable to Putin, willing or unwilling, or witting or unwitting, I guess is the word. Um, I don't know in every case, but for every child, I don't think that Trump went into this as an unwitting character. I don't think he just wanted, I know he wanted to build his business, he wanted to grow that, sure, but he knew what he was getting into. I'm pretty convinced by Craig Unger's work in Compromat. And he, remember, is a Harvard grad, award-winning researcher and journalist, and a source definitely for Timothy Snyder. So he's somebody who at least deserves a little bit of cred just for those purposes. But I think he really does demonstrate that this was a very deliberate thing, and the um, reaction of the Russians at the time of Trump's election, from like, yay, vote for Trump. Our man won today. Now hopefully Trump will run the locomotive of the West off the rails. It was pretty well organized, and the amount of money that came from Russia was acknowledged by his son, who said, basically, we've been doing fine since we got involved with Russia. And there was the $20 million payment for Trump to go to Moscow and do a beauty pageant, which he didn't do anything. The only thing he did was tell one young guy, "You're fired," which would be a reflection of that Apprentice TV show, for which he was prepped apparently by Russia and again Craig Unger. So I don't think he didn't know. I think he knew, and he knew exactly what he was doing. And the fact that his first visitors to the White House were two Russians, well, and that they allowed Russian kind of television equipment in, is another thing. It's like, no, you wouldn't usually do that at all. So I think he knew exactly what he was getting into.
I posted an article. It's a really good one, from the Times UK, and this is what Dryfly was talking about. I'm just gonna read um, just a little excerpt from it, and it's Moscow had previously relied on armies of workers manually spreading online disinformation from a troll factory in St. Petersburg on social media platforms such as Telegram, Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. Now, just 2 or 3 agents could create tens of thousands of authentic seeming fake accounts. Um, and AI is a huge step forward for Russia. So Russia's ability to interfere in the affairs of foreign countries and conduct operations was thought to have been stymied by the expulsions of Russian spies from embassies around the world. Europe alone has expelled more than 400 suspected Russian intelligence officers since the full-scale invasion of Ukraine. But the murder of Maxim Kuzminov, a Russian defector who was killed in the Spanish seaside town of Vallejosa this month, was a stark reminder of its continued ability to carry out lethal operations on foreign soil. So extensive is Moscow's network of informants and agents. It is impossible to eradicate Russian interference, and they use, as I said this earlier, student, wives, tourists, all of them are used to do Russia's bidding for them. This is a great article. If you guys want to get past the paywall, it's you just plug it into archive.today. It's a good read. It's fast, and yeah, it's definitely a huge danger. This disinformation campaign that Russia has unleashed. For every child, please go ahead. Or in the meantime, Arya, go ahead. Welcome back up.
Thank you. I'm really sorry about that. My phone is glitching. I tried restarting it and going through the app and the internet, and neither is working on there. So I'm on my computer now. So I apologize. I can't raise my hand. I will wave, and I'll then patiently wait and try waving again in a little bit. So if somebody sees that repeatedly for like 5 to 10 minutes and there's not hands up, please mention it to Slavia or Natho Day for me. I'd appreciate that. Um, Couple of thoughts on various things that were said over the last like 10, 15 minutes, and I'm sorry for not getting to them sooner. What Dryfly was saying is 100% correct. You need to make an assumption when having conversations with people, whether they are being good faith actors and actually engaging you and having a dialectic where they're thinking about what you're saying or they're debating you. And then if it is a debate, you need to be aware of the lurkers and that you're doing it for the lurkers, right? Winning in an argument against somebody doesn't mean you win in the eyes of the people viewing it. You can make all your points and it can end up being irrelevant. That being said, I will be the first to say I think it's important to do this and to judge each situation. And if you have the time and energy to put it in, because there are people that I think are misguided and that you can get through to. It's rare and it takes a lot of time. If anybody wants suggestions on how to do it, there is a gentleman who has de-radicalized several hundred neo-Nazis, KKK members, Black supremacists, and other hate group members. His name's Daryl Davis. He's on Twitter. He's done multiple TED Talks on various strategies to do it. He's one of the most successful people in the world at being able to get through to people who are brainwashed like this. In regards to the comments on the genocide, because that is what it is, via children getting stolen by Russia, and then sent to military academy brainwashing schools where they are being trained, and then the minute they are of legal age or current legal age, I imagine at some point that will change within the Russian, system. They are conscripted into the army. This is a revitalization of the Tsarist canton system on the light, right? And for any who don't know, from the 1800, from 1800, a little bit before that, I believe, to the 1860s, the Russian government would force the Jewish communities to give up children ranging in age from 8 to 12 to be forcibly conscripted into the military. And it was an attempt to forcibly assimilate us, population down, and convert people to Orthodox Christianity. And there were similar programs done for the Gypsies, the Poles, and a few other minority groups within the Russian Empire. And this is literally Putin taking that, making it a little bit more palatable, a little bit less, 18th century barbarity and modern barbarity wise, and just toning it down just a little bit. Because I don't think the Russian people, if they were seeing 8-year-old kids going onto the battlefield, would have the same opinions of the propaganda as much as they're willing to take. I do think that might actually change their view. But it's very messed up, and I hope people understand that this isn't something new, and that there is historical precedence for this, and it's terrifying because Putin has revitalized many of the czarist practices with various flavors of the Soviet Union. And there were multiple people who said that if Russia lost its democracy, it would become a totalitarian country far worse than what the USSR was. And I think they may be right, and I hope they're wrong, and I hope something ends it. But it's not a good situation. Thank you.
Thanks so much. I got a suggestion in the back channel, and this is pretty good. If maybe we could make some kind of list, what to look for in these accounts, but the new type of accounts, the ones that may that look very, very real. I mean, we know this from the bots, the things to look at from when the account was made, how many followers, what they're tweeting when. Um, but if once we gather maybe more information on what to look for on these uh, r- real kind of looking accounts, uh, but yet still bots, I think maybe it would be beneficial to maybe talk about those things and kind of spread that around. What do you think? Are you?
Um, so I think that there is use in explaining to people the dangers and how easily manipulated we are, how much of this is either people cutting and pasting information or people on back channels spreading messages and reposting the same messages just slightly changed up. The problem with specifically dealing with the accounts that are sowing disinformation, or what may in part be automated responses, but also have people going in and doing responses and replying to stuff. um it's very hard to tell the difference. And I remember about a year ago, there was a study that came out that said that most people couldn't tell the difference between a chat bot, pretending to be a woman or a man on a dating site, and a human. And most people can't tell the difference, right? Even if you're being told one of these people is a robot and one of these people is a human, you're not going to be able to tell the difference. It's gotten so good at this point, and the way, especially Twitter, is even more than a place like Facebook. Um, it's so disjointed here, where I don't think that things that might be red flags normally will be seen as red flags, right? People just don't reply to your tweets. People will just spam a reply to somebody, which is obnoxious and trying to sow discord. And then 50 people will reply and they'll just let it go, right? Because they're not actually interested in having an argument. They're just trying to spread their propaganda and get it to as many people as possible. And as many people as it gets to, right? On to the next one. And it's very easy to just say that that's a bot, but it's not necessarily a bot, right? It's very easy to say that somebody who's making little responses to something on various things. It's a black hole where I don't see a solution. um all I see being able to help is both education on the dangers, and not believing things, and fact checking and so on and so forth. And as I've said before, government action to hold the companies that allow flagrant disregard for their terms of service and federal law within the United States to be held accountable for that. And then they will start taking actions on the bots, right? Elon said, I'm going to deal with all the bots. The bots are the huge issue on Twitter. They're affecting everything. Since Elon's been here, I get 10 to 30 bot accounts, all pretending to be women, almost all of them blatantly saying that they're sex workers, that add my account and then either get banned or leave because I don't respond and I block. Right? It hasn't gotten better, and I don't see making a list of it, right? If you do something like that, if you make I was saying this the other day, you make some sort of an algorithm to try to find these people and punish them for it, right? What you're going to end up doing is you're going to end up scraping up a lot of people that aren't bots, and you're going to be punishing them also and limiting the conversation. And then there are other things you can do, right? Whether it's, an authorized account where you're paying money, or they're actually checking the IP addresses and they're properly banning VPN servers, which you can do to an extent. I don't see it. I don't see it as getting fixed anytime soon. I don't see it as getting better. It's going to get a lot worse. And then as AI gets better, at this point, you can almost make voice and video. And I mean, literally, an idiot can do this with $50 in his pocket and being willing to go, not even onto the dark net, just Google. You can take video of almost a picture of almost anybody and make a video that is almost believable of them singing or saying anything just from a picture. One high-res picture can do it now. And then you can take other software and do various effects on that video to make the video look real, So it's not hard to do, and it's going to get worse, and we need to prepare for this. And I don't know as a society how we're going to be able to deal with this when it gets to the point where the average human eye can't differentiate between a CGI, AI, video changing somebody to do. And people are getting fooled every day. Look, there was a nun the other day. I remember it was a front page story. There was a nun who was called by a spam caller who had literally taken the answering machine recording from the bishop or the priest or whatever, and they used that to just using one program to have an entire conversation with her where she thought she was talking to her boss, and she sent hundreds of thousands of dollars via the church funds, to these scammers. It's going to get worse, and I'm not sure if there is any ways within our toolkit yet other than legislation to fight stuff like this. And even when we do fight it, it's still going to be there. It's still going to be available to the really bad faith actors, right? It might not be available to the Vladnik Telegram guy who's in his mom's basement and angry at the world and lashing out because he wants a little bit of power. Okay, but the actual bad actors will still have full access to it, whether it's various groups, terror group stuff, or countries like Russia and China. And I'm starting to ramble, and I apologize, but it's a huge issue, and there needs to be some technological and legislative advances before I see any changes in it. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Arye. Yeah, with generative AI, it's becoming scary how good it is. Great for if you want to make a cheap film content movie, but it is insane. And this was just recently, I think maybe like a month ago, it came out videos, and before you could tell it wasn't moving, but now it's becoming very close to realistic. You can still kind of tell, but I'm guessing in a month or two, it will be seamless. Um, Also, as I was digging through these articles, I was kind of looking for an answer, kind of what I just kind of posed. but an answer to, well, what do we do with this? And I couldn't find anything. And a lot of them do say government agencies, governments are aware of this. They know. And nobody really has a solution, but just as of now, awareness. Also, this isn't just referring to accounts on X. This AI, the disinformation campaign is also making very real, like news, like news websites that you can't even tell the difference. Obviously, it's disinformation and propaganda, but you're making a lot of those as well. Uh, that's it's crazy. You can't even tell the difference. I don't know. Um, Ari, if you have anything to say to that.
No, I agree with what you were saying, and I'm very fearful outside of a very small minority of the journalist community that journalism is either dead or nearly dead. The amount of AI content I see on mainstream sites, amount of stuff which is clearly to anybody who has been using ChatGPT for a couple of months, people using it to troll other um, news stories and repackage it and just put it on their site. I mean, the amount of times I've seen claims made on one non-credible source, and then one news source will pick it up. And then within like 2 hours from then, I'm seeing it on every major headline without any fact checking. It's just literally parroting it. And half the time, they don't even give credit to the original one. And the only way that's happening is if they're literally repackaging other people's stories, either by plugging it in AI wise and then having it do it that way, or just drawing it together and saying, pull me together and rewrite this. And there are prompts to do it. And it's very easy to do when you know what you're doing. And I mean, it's happening in more and more industries. I've got at least 5 or 6 friends, and I'm not over exaggerating here, I've talked to who have managed to completely automate their jobs with using AI, and their bosses and coworkers don't even know. I've got a friend who sits there all day playing video games. He spends maybe 10 minutes on the phone a day, and he's getting paid a full day's work because he's managed to automate it all. So there are like silver linings to that, but it's going to really hurt our society. And until we wake up and people a lot smarter than us, who have a lot more power than us, start actually taking some decisions on it instead of kicking the can down the road, I don't think it's going to get better. And sadly, I think politicians have a habit of not dealing with stuff until the last minute possible. And that this is going to be one of those scenarios where it's going to be at the last second possible, and then we're going to take very draconian steps as far as dealing with AI and various other things like this. And many of the types of internet forums and stuff that I think we've seen shrink in many respects over the last 5-6 years. But I think the way we use the internet is going to drastically change when that happens. And I don't know if that's a good or a bad thing. But until something like that, I don't see a change. And anybody telling you that they're making a program or they can make a program that will fix this, or some tool or algorithm is going to fix this, or blocking some website or whatever it is going to magically fix this, at best, it's going to be a Band-Aid, and I doubt even that. And I thank you for listening. To me, I apologize, a little bit more incoherent than normal. I was having a back and forth for about 2 hours trying to convince somebody not to support Russia earlier. So I'm a little tired. And I found out the news on this swindler Mahi rot today. So that really messed with my mind. So I apologize. I'm not 100% here right now.
Oh, good.
Oh, well, thank you. I appreciate your input there. Some of my thoughts on on this is that this is the very reason MriyaReport exists. Is we are here to fact check and to combat Russian disinformation. So spaces, we the spaces and other places that actively fact check. There's all sorts of different fact check websites and organizations that have popped up. Their job just got a lot harder, but I think we, as at least as MriyaReport, we're going to still be here fact checking all the Russian bots and talking points and those kind of things for our audience, so that we will continue to be a resource for them, and we need more people here to help us with that fact checking. So um, we always like to have volunteers for MriyaReport to help us in fighting the Russian disinformation. Slavi, you don't really ever need to raise your hand; just kick me.
No, I wanted
I won't
to
feel it.
I wanted to jump in really quick. Yeah, I had my own experience with kind of looking for information, about history about Ukraine, and this was quite recently. Um, and as I went to search for it, and as I was reading it on numerous websites, I was like, wait a minute, that's isn't right. But I have, some very minimal knowledge about it, so I was able to kind of navigate. But let's say, well, in the today's kind of kids these days, critical thinking and media literacy is next to none. But let's say somebody does go looking for answers, and it's scary because it's you really have to dig through this stuff to get the right answer. But then I knew what I was looking for, and I was able to tell that this isn't right. This is complete Russian disinformation, uh, and completely revision of Ukrainian history. I'm really concerned about this. And sorry if you guys can hear my dog in the background. I'm gonna leave it at that. Let's unless Nato Dave, you want to take it, or maybe we can go to hands.
Great. Let's go to hands. My phone's getting slow, so I may be crashing here some shortly. I think is for every child's been waiting for a while. And hello.
Yes, for every child.
Okay.
Are you there?
I'm here, but it's a mistake. I didn't mean to have my hand up.
All right, that's okay. Luca, please go ahead.
Yeah, I heard generative AI came up because that's kind of like what I do. Like, you can consider me as the AI guy here. So, but I got half of the discussion. Maybe could you tell me what the statement is around generative AI? I mean, of course I understand this information, but I forgot who was talking. What is the statement that we were making here? And then maybe I can give my comment.
So Russia is using AI for their disinformation campaigns. Uh, with accounts, they're spreading like 166 million posts weekly to go against Ukraine, to undermine its support. Um, and the fact that they're using AI as well, they're one person can make tens and thousands of accounts, real life looking like accounts. So it's almost impossible uh, to tell if it's a real person or not. And then Arya explained that also, if it is a bot, kind of engaging with it has its dangers of its own if you do choose to engage with it.
Okay. You're talking about Twitter, right?
Well, we got onto kind of like making fake news websites that look very real. But at first, we were talking about Twitter accounts. Telegram is, of course, up there. TikTok and Instagram and Facebook a little bit less, because they do have kind of policies to put against these kind of bots and disinformation. But I would say Twitter and Telegram and TikTok are leading the way.
Okay, all right. So yeah, thank you. And I think someone here was saying that it's like a difficult problem. So now, okay, I'll say one thing and then I'll tell you a story, an insider story from the AI community to help you like drive my my point here. The thing is, TikTok, well, I don't want to say it's like manipulated by the Chinese, but like in first approximation, we could think about it like that to some extent. We know what's going on with Twitter. Okay, now everybody can open a website. There is nothing we can do about it. The question is how you promote it. Now AI will allow you to make a good-looking website, and then well, what's Russia using $1 billion? I think they buy some ads and they optimize the SEO, so they can do that better, right? And so the website, like there was this guy. Actually, it's funny. Like he was going to school with my son in Italy, and then he moved to Russia, and then my son's like, this guy's crazy. And anyway, like he opens like some website, and then he gets some money from Dubai or something, and then the website is all Russian propaganda, right? And they were actually questioning him on Italian TV, right? So I understand that is a big problem. But let's go back to like the social networks, right? The story is the following. I think the first time that like network level misinformation was used for strategic purposes was the 2016 elections, and there was something called Cambridge Analytica, and Facebook got in the hot waters from that because, well, anyways, they were pushing out disinformation, right? Now, from Facebook's standpoint, those were eyeballs. So the economic incentive is like really hard to break, especially because I think how's it called? Very not even contrarian, but controversial. Very controversial content seems to be sticky. There were like researches that show that it engages more people. That's why there are flat earthers, right? It's controversial that the Earth is flat, and so if people are flat earthers, they'll dedicate to that mission. Now, so here's the story, right? In the middle of the controversy, I think Zuckerberg was even going to Congress and all of that, right? Someone said, maybe even Zuckerberg or some top executive at Facebook said, oh, it's extremely hard to detect bots and disinformation and blah, blah, blah. I just happen to know the head of Facebook AI research, a Frenchman called Yann LeCun. Anybody knows about AI knows he's one of the top 3 in AI. And then being a little Frenchy and not so, how should I say? You know how the French can be a little bit pain in the neck when they want. He actually tweeted under that. So against his boss, I think he was the guy just under Zuckerberg, and Zuckerberg was in Congress. And he said, oh, hey, at Facebook AI, yeah, like we have the technology, we can deploy it tomorrow. It became a big political issue inside of Facebook. I think they tried to push him out and this and that, and then they realized that, well, anyways, AI is too important and it's too big of a honcho to push him out. And in fact, he's at Facebook and he's doing great. He's heading Facebook AI. But that was the reality, and the reality still is today. The problem in the platform we're talking right now, this platform here, is not that there are no remedies. There are remedies. Is it perfect? No. Is it possible to cut out 90, 99, maybe 99.9? I don't know the number. A giant chunk of the disinformation. Just by literally, guys, this is my sector, okay? Flipping a switch, including generative AI. I'm Elon Musk, or I'm the guy that works under Elon Musk and says, get rid of Russian information. I flip a switch and it's gone tomorrow. Okay, sure, 1% is still there, 0.1% is still there. But like, like you can literally kill it now. Okay, it's a strategy that it's there, guys. Okay, and this is also the reason why it's not on Facebook. Facebook gets slapped in the face by that story that I said before with the Cambridge Analytica, and not Google, not as much, right? So again, yes, laws, regulations, making sure that we don't get infiltrated and exploited. Generative AI, super dangerous, but you fight technology with technology, right? You don't fight, intercontinental ballistic missiles with, throwing stones at them, right? No, you develop advanced interceptors, right? And AI is the same thing. It's no different. We have all of the countermeasures, but, someone policy, and I'm specifically speaking about some social network like this one, it's not to deploy them, okay? And then we're left with what we have now. That's my statement. Thank you, guys.
Thanks so much. I was actually going to ask, what about bot versus bot as kind of, I don't know, protection to load up
What do you mean by
bots?
bot versus bot?
Well, if we load up with bots, so it would have to go bot versus bot, so they don't get to real people. I don't know. I'm just throwing it out there.
No. What you're saying, it's true. You can. It's more of a communication. So this is a little bit outside my domain, right? You say one countermeasure is to basically, one defense is attack. So you attack at scale, and then you end up using the same technology. So yes, but what I'm telling you is that I guarantee you, the owner of this platform could flip a switch, and probably the owner of most platforms, and many have done it, like I mentioned. And those bots, those generative AI content, they looked very good. See, here's the thing, guys. Some video that looks good to you doesn't look the same to an AI countermeasure. So it's possible to develop models that will perform much better than you. I mean, okay, by the way, if you look at those videos very closely, you'll find little aberrations that will tell you if you have an expert eye. They're extremely good, right? Video, images, text. But you can tell if you're an expert. And now you can develop automated, basically AI countermeasures that do that. You can take down those accounts. You can take down the content. In fact, I think YouTube said something about it, like maybe just a month ago, that he took down like 90,000 or some absurd number of like Russian disinformation bots, right? And it can be done at scale, and it can be done now. It's not done because some people don't want to do it. Now, again, there is an economic incentive, right? It generates some eyeballs and blah, blah, blah. You can target and advertise against. But trust me, the richest man in the world, okay, sure, he makes few millions a year. That is not the reason. The strategic reason why certain networks are allowed to be exploited. This is what I'm saying here, right? And some are like, well, it's like TikTok, kind of like a soft manipulation, vector from the PRC into the mind of like teenage Westerners. Some people said that, like it's maybe it is. Then we know that that's a vector. So it's a strategy to let those that content stand. But in this platform, and as concerned with Russia disinformation, again, flip the switch, it's gone. They're just not flipping it, so they don't want to flip it. That's kind of like what I want you guys to have as a take-home point. Thank you.
Good point. I'm definitely one of those people that think that Elmo got Twitter just to say Kremlin propaganda and to let it be. I don't believe he wanted to actually eradicate it from bots as he promised he would. So yeah, I definitely think it's on him, and he could get it done if he wanted to. Now, I think Anda, you were next, and then we'll go over to Arya.
Actually, Luca did a much better job than me explaining this. I just I was mesmerized and listened to him, and I forgot to take my my hand down. So yeah, that was the same point I wanted to make. AI is not a one-way street, so it can be used by the other side. As he said, from the platform, so not bot to bot, but actually the platform will, cut them down. And then you have silence, because actually I came on Twitter 10 more than 10 years ago for information, for raw information. So it annoys me to no end to see doctored images and, Stalin showing a heart-shaped image. And that was posted by Elon Musk. Like, really? Really? He murdered thousands of people of his own country and other countries. So why are we? Yeah, I don't know. But yeah, thank you, and thank you, Luca. And very, very, very nice to hear you speak. I haven't heard you in a very long time.
Do you want me to say one more thing?
Sure, yeah, jump in.
It's going to be opinionated, but I'm going to say it anyway. So the strategy here is very simple. It is true the United States has a huge budget, not surplus. What's the opposite? Budget deficit. So at some point they'll have to fix that. They either cut spending. It's not going to be military spending, though. Some of those people that want to stop wars might want to even cut military spending, and as such help our enemies. But they might just cut a whole bunch of social services. I mean, you might be pro or against that. I'm just going to be neutral about it. But from the perspective of the richest men in the world, they'll favor people that don't cut their taxes. So there is an idea that, like, if Biden gets reelected, and if there is, like, for them, the nightmare scenario that they control Congress, they're going to be taxed more. Now, again, I'm super capitalist. I left Europe because I think taxes are too high. So I'm not for it. Like, I'm not necessarily saying that's the right approach, but something needs to be done. Perhaps a combination of, some cuts and some taxes. But I think these guys, they really hate that. They'd rather have more rockets to go to Mars than pay a little more taxes. And I actually even understand their standpoint. However, once they do this at a point where, they start to facilitate, our enemies like Russia, or they might even work to, weaken democratic institution in the West. Then I don't take it anymore, right? Then I think it's just it's just bullshit what they're doing, and I think this is what they're doing. They just don't want to pay more taxes. I think it's as simple as that. And this big info op is dedicated to that, in my opinion. And unfortunately, it's rather successful because, like you guys say, it takes time to make regulation around that. By the way, there could be bipartisan regulation around these things about deepfake. Weirdly enough, like even the much hated Speaker Johnson, I was listening in an AI podcast yesterday saying that he put together and these are Stanford PhD reviewing it, a pretty viable bipartisan committee to regulate this. So there might be some regulation coming out, and it might be bipartisan. But you guys are right; it takes time, right? And also, you don't want to make the wrong regulation, so it's normal that it takes time. And in the meantime, well, we're left with these exploits, like we're seeing it, and some are just stupid, like when he retweet about, like, Stalin. He's just being an ass. I'm sorry about that. But some are like very dangerous, as we mentioned, some of the Russian narratives that they're spreading. So quite disgusted about it. Thank you very much. I'll shut up. Bye.
Thanks so much, Luca. That was great. Arya, can you? I think you had your hand up next, or
Yeah.
did you change your mind?
No. Did it go down? I'm sorry if it went down before. I would like to respond to some of the stuff Luca was saying. Luca, thank you for coming up.
I don't think I can't hear you, Arya. So maybe
I can hear him. He's talking.
recycle.
I don't know if she can
He's
hear
talking.
you, Dave.
Can you hear me, Slavi?
All right.
I can hear you.
Oh, you
Okay.
can?
Slavi, you cannot hear, I think, Dave and Arya. They are both talking. So probably you need to recycle.
Okay.
Okay.
So
Yeah, go ahead, Arya.
while we're waiting for Slavi, Luca, some of the stuff I agree with you. Some of the stuff I think was is wrong or an oversimplification of the issues. First, TikTok is a psyops from the Chinese government. There is no doubt to that. The data speaks. Further, the Chinese government, when you sign up for TikTok, you allow them full access to everything on your phone. Every text message you send, when you type on your keyboard, your cameras, when you're using them and when you're not using them, your GPS location, so on and so forth. There are political officers that work for TikTok that give that all back to the Communist Party. This isn't conspiracy theory. This is fact. Okay. The Chinese government is doing everything within their power to destabilize our country. Okay. This is a fact. Okay. These are not my feelings. Okay. So if you're going to say that about TikTok, you need to be aware of that. And I'm happy to send you documentation on that. It's not if, it's not a maybe. As far as Facebook AI and monitoring, and all of that, you make it sound like it's as easy as flipping a switch. That there are programs or things these people have that will stop this. That's BS. I'm sorry, and I'm trying to be polite here. That's not true, right? There were those programs implemented on Twitter years ago until Elon Musk came on. He turned off those algorithms. He turned off those models. They were based on AI models. Okay. What they would do is they would flag you if you used keywords, right? And they would constantly be shadow banning tons of people who should not be shadow banned for giving nuanced responses to stuff. You made a comment on how easy it is for a model, right, properly using with a real proper processing power to be able to spot an image or a video and figure out it's fake. That's true. To do that for the millions of posts on social media, it would cost more just from electricity, okay, than they make from ad revenue. What you're saying with the technology doesn't exist. It's factually impossible. Okay. When you say that just hire more people, which is what I think you were trying to say when you started going off on about some other stuff, to monitor this, people have opinions, man. The level of money and investment you need to put in to get moderators that aren't going to inject their political opinions on stuff, that aren't going to be biased, is extreme. And then you have to have people policing them. Okay. You're right about one thing, and I'll give you this. You're 100% right. These companies do not care. It's in their self-interest for the bots. It's in their self-interest for the Discord. It's in the more clicks, the more posts, the more money they make. It doesn't matter if it's real. It doesn't matter if it's fake, as long as they're not getting, attacked for it, right? You talked about regulations with deep fakes. It's been made illegal in multiple states, as has revenge porn and various other similar things. It hasn't stopped anybody. Legislation does nothing. Enforcement of laws does something, right? And again, if you're just changing the legislation on making it illegal or a punishable offense for people to use this technology, you're not actually going to stop the companies from allowing it to happen. It doesn't work. And I might not work with AI as a full-time job, but I've installed multiple language models on multiple computers. I've used ChatGPT, multiple versions of it. I've played around with Luna. I've played around with a dozen other ones, and I have multiple friends in the industry. What you're saying isn't possible unless you truly believe Mark Zuckerberg is some evil genius who has access to super technology that the rest of us don't know about. Okay, it's just we're not there yet. In 5 years, in 6 years, we may be there, but that that technology is also going to evolve. So to say that this is as simple as Musk turning a switch and it would fix it, it's not. Unless you cut off full access to any way of accessing this, you're not going to have it, and it's still going to pop up. Right? You're still going to have people that are able to get access to it, whether it's bad faith actors or people. And you can look at anything that is disgusting and vile on the internet, whether it's illegal forms of pornography or human and other forms of smuggling. It exists, and people go about it, right? And they do it, and legislation isn't going to stop it. Enforcement is going to stop it. And I don't want to go in a circle, but I just think you have a very unrealistic view of what is feasible. And maybe in a perfect world, if our government was willing to put forth billions of dollars of money to back this, but no bipartisan support's going to do that. Nobody cares enough. If they can't ban TikTok, they can't do this. Like, I'm sorry. It's just very fanciful. And I like you a lot, Luca. I'm not attacking you personally. I want to make that very clear. This is my feelings on what you said here. And I apologize if any of it came off as feeling personal. I've agreed with a lot of the stuff you've said in the past pertaining to AI. And I appreciate you coming up here. I just want you to know that it's not an attack on you. I just very strongly disagree with what you said there. Thank you.
Oh, well, Luca, go ahead and respond, please.
Oh, okay. No, it's fine. It's a discussion. So,